We bridge your knowledge to success.
Welcome to another episode of Adhitya Talks, my viewers. And today we have Mr. Param Shah. We are thrilled to have you here on our show today, sir. Your journey as a young entrepreneur and a founder of a non-profit organization is truly inspiring, and we are going to learn a lot from your experiences today. So, first of all, how are you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
Doing great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and excited to tell you more about myself.
Yeah, so first of all, tell us about yourself and how did you get started as an entrepreneur and the founder of the Lotus Life Foundation as well? Um, can
Yep.
just give us a bit of a background of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up was born and raised in Orange County, California, specifically Irvine. It's people know it as basically an hour south of Los Angeles. Grew up in a great sort of neighborhood there. My dad was an immigrant from India, came to the United States, became a structural engineer here. He's an entrepreneur himself, starting up his own firm, taking a lot of risk to make sort of my career successful, make my sister and my careers both successful there, and essentially, really, I got my start. I was sort of in high school, doing several things from choir to nonprofit work to just kind of whatever I wanted to do. I never had like a straight focus in terms of like, I'm going to go to college to be a doctor, and so I'm going to study science and did that. I was a good student, but in general, I kind of pursued every passion that I was interested in, and it resulted in sort of no focus was what my career counselor said. In any case, around junior year, I took a trip, a service trip to India. I had been to India pretty much every summer growing up as a kid, so I spoke the language. I knew the country very well. I have a lot of family there. But junior year, which is the third year of high school in America, I went to Siddhabadi, India, which is near Dharamshala, and we basically performed a service trip there where we went in the villages. We worked with a lot of neighborhoods to be able to build sort of sewage systems, work with small groups there to do micro financing and essentially empower a better lifestyle in that area. To be truthful, these people had existed and had lived their lives happily for a long time, and we were coming in and learning a lot about how we could impact and like make an impact and sort of make the economy better in that area. One of the things that growing up in high school I was very passionate about was special education. So at our high school, and in a lot of high schools in America, you have general education, which is students that have they do not have disabilities or any sort of disabilities in learning, and then you have special education, so children that have sort of neuromusculoskeletal disorders, or they have some sort of mental disorder that impacts their learning capabilities. They're in special education, and what we saw at our school is that these kids were very talented, but because of that disability, they weren't allowed to be in sort of a lot of the same classes that general education kids could be. And I made it sort of one of my passions in high school to kind of support that program, to lobby and make it capable for special education children to be in general education classes as well. And when I went on the service trip to India, I realized that traveling through these villages, a lot of the children there had the same types of disabilities, but they were almost hidden from society. Like you wouldn't see them unless you go into their houses. A lot of their families didn't know that what they had could be treated, and essentially seeing this, I think something just sparked inside of me, and I never had a passion to become an entrepreneur or to start businesses or something, but I just knew that some something needed to be done, and there was nobody else to take the job, and so I went for it, and that's how the Lotus Life Foundation was born. We partnered with that nonprofit that I went to service for. We started building sort of manufacturing labs and capabilities in the area to produce medical devices. We partnered with the doctors there to actually provide treatment to the children and screen them, and that program has been expanded over several years. But yeah, that's the start. I can go sort of later into my career, but I'll leave it there for now.
So when you began, you were just a 19-year-old, right? How did you find the motivation and the confidence, first of all, to step into an unknown field and begin, like, start your own business? What was your motivation, and
Yeah.
what were the feelings that you faced at that moment?
Yeah, so I started Lotus Life Foundation when I was 17. So I was even younger, and then I started my first for-profit business, Factory 4, when I was 19. So I'll kind of walk through both of those. Lotus Life Foundation was a funny thing. I recently kind of approved a grant application for the nonprofit, and I needed to find an image from a program we ran a long time ago. So I went deep in our archive and looked at some of the first documents and grants and images we had from way back then when I was 17 or 18, and it was funny to look at because I look at that stuff now and it looks almost like a child made it, right? Compared to what I'm able to do now. But like I look back and I think, wow, I had just this, I think this immense sense of confidence at that time where no matter what I put out, I thought it was great, and all I cared about was, are we making the impact at the end of the day that we're trying to make? And so starting that, and then later going to college and starting sort of my first company, it was called Factory 4, and I can explain more about that. But I think what I constantly felt was that I was almost living two lives. You know, on one side, I was living the school kind of life of like being a kid, going to school, going to parties, like hanging out with friends, going to class. And then on the other side, I was meeting with very important people who had had a lot of success in life, who were looking at me and saying, is this kid trustworthy? Can I give him my money and will he use it well? Like, do I believe in him? And I almost had to create the maturity that I have today. I had to almost manufacture that so that I could be in those situations and actually make them trust me. But I learned to do that. I learned to get comfortable at a very early age to be in those situations. Yeah.
Yes. So I think in 2017 you were named in the Forbes 30 under 30 list for your work as an entrepreneur. So what motivates you to pursue entrepreneurship, and what challenges you have faced along the way from when you were 17 to now?
You know, it's funny, and you'll see. Like, I think a lot of kids or school people in college now sort of face this thing. But when I was just getting started, for example, like my nonprofit Lotus Life Foundation, entrepreneurship, like how it is today, where it's cool, everybody wants to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, that didn't exist back then. You know, like Silicon Valley and the tech stuff was very far away. I didn't understand it. So when I went to school to be a doctor, and that's really what I was thinking about. Is I want to be a doctor. Done this nonprofit work. I was still excited about it, and about 2 weeks into school, I started a college project, which was making basically a medical device for the children that I work with overseas. Make a medical device, but make it in a way that's much more fast and customized. So, for example, children that have cerebral palsy, which is a musculoskeletal disorder, they have this device called an orthotic, which basically holds their leg in a certain position and helps treat their bone structure and that sort of thing. Today you use a very old kind of process. You like coat the leg in plaster that creates a mold, you fill it with plastic, and then you make this device. It takes a long time. The materials are really not like safe or good. And what we basically created as a project in school was this ability to scan in 3D a person's leg, and based on that scan create a device automatically utilizing 3D printing, which is a new technology at the time. And we created this device, created this software to do that, all on the premise of like, yeah, we want to just do this cool project in school. And as we started to show kind of doctors in the area this particular thing, a lot of them started to say, look, this is really interesting. The device is a little futuristic, but the software that you built is actually like really exciting. It could make a difference. It could save us a lot of money and like help us grow our business. And so I almost stumbled into entrepreneurship, where we started to kind of sell this software and grow this product to these businesses. And I just by chance happened to meet this Silicon Valley investor who came to our school for a talk, and he saw what I was building and he said, look, this can be used in semiconductor manufacturing, furniture manufacturing, in all these different areas, and it opened my mind a bit. And based on that, I kind of took the leap into entrepreneurship. I learned about Silicon Valley and all of this stuff. The funny thing, though, that I'll say is that in terms of motivation, is that there's a lot of bright lights in technology, in entrepreneurship. But to be honest, like, it's a very, very difficult and thankless job. And I think growing up in sort of Southern California, but like really growing up on the East Coast away from the tech bubble, like in Baltimore, which is not a kind of central city, you stay away from the glamour of what technology and what this startup culture is, and you get to see what does real hard work mean. And so I always caution a lot of student entrepreneurs and young people to say, hey, what is your real passion? Are you building something that you actually enjoy building? Like, is there something cool that you're doing, or do you like the cause? Or are you chasing the glamour? Because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of glamour once you start to actually do the hard work. And so, if anything, what motivates me is just an ability to solve really challenging problems, whether it's in manufacturing or real estate or nonprofits. And that's what keeps my mind kind of chugging.
Yeah. So basically, at the heart of being an entrepreneur, you have to be a problem solver. And you started to solve problems from an early age. And after some time, you began to step into the field of becoming an entrepreneur and starting your own business. And I think that's at the heart of it. So people, if you want to step into this industry, try to find a problem that you want to solve and something that you genuinely want to do for the people around you and or for yourself. So moving on, after gaining so much experience in the field, can you give your advice for young people who aspire to start their own businesses and non-profits? What qualities or skills do you think are necessary to be successful in this field?
I think first and foremost, it's resilience. Like resilience, or call it grit, right? Like, I think if you have a good sense of, like, if you have a good head on your shoulders and you have a problem that you think you can really solve, that you're excited to solve, then a lot of business is patience and resilience, because you have to work. I have a value that I bring to every company, which is just 1% better every day. If you can figure out how to make your business, your product, whatever it is, 1% better every single day, then eventually in the long run, you're going to make a 3x, 10x, 100x bigger and better business. And so what I see is that the majority of entrepreneurs that win are ones that are able to stick it out for the long run. They enjoy the problem they work on. They spend a lot of time and they continuously improve, even on the low days and the high days. Part of that is emotional stability too. Like being an entrepreneur is not easy, and like being able to like celebrate the wins, but also bounce back from the losses is super important. And yeah, I think aside from that, like in general, if you're looking to start your new sort of startup and nonprofit and that sort of thing, like really it's just like it's a sense of self-awareness as well. This is probably going a little too deep, but like it's very easy, especially when you're starting out, to get attached to what you're doing. It happened to me too. My first company was my baby. But the truth is especially when you're a student or you're a child, you have a very, very long career and life ahead of you. And like when I was 19 or 20 and I was in the depths of that business and I was going crazy building it out, like I stayed in school for 2 years and then I dropped out to focus full time on that business. It meant everything to me. Like I was fully devoted to that. Like when things went wrong, I felt personally very bad. When things went well, I was on cloud nine. But the truth is that you can't attach yourself to one thing, because the reality is that it may not be kind of your life's work, and because you just started. And so I think find a great problem, be resilient, stick it out, but then be self-aware. Is this a good idea? Is this going to be successful? Does the business actually work, or are we just kind of telling ourselves that it work? I think those are a lot of the qualities of a smart entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah, it's really interesting. So basically, you're trying to say that have clarity on what you're doing and why you're doing, and have your why, your passion. You should know that in this 5 years, I want to achieve this, and have clear goals. Sir, first of all, I also wanted to ask, what challenges as a young person in this industry? You said that you forced yourself to mature yourself. So what challenges did you face as a young person? Because there are many perks of being a young person in a industry, but what were the challenges that you faced?
To be honest, I think I think from a place of a lot of privilege, just to begin with. Like I grew up not with a lot of money, but with everything I could ask for as a person, a great home, great family, like had the money to go to college, all that stuff. I was privileged in that I went to a sort of high-end school and that sort of stuff for college as well. And so compared to a lot of people in the industry, like underrepresented minorities, women, I already have an advantage. So I just want to start by saying that. That being said, like youth is a tough one. Like I know investors, for example, and by the way, you do not need investors to create a business. I will say that first of all. Like venture capital, that stuff aside, like you don't need investment to build a business. But like when you think about your investors, they're not just venture capitalists. They are your clients. They are your partners. All these people that you need, they are your teammates. All these people need to be able to trust you to be able to do your job, right? And do it well. So I think like from a youth standpoint, I never felt like I was discounted directly, but what I definitely understood was that less so investors than those, because there's more tolerance, especially within technology, for younger entrepreneurs. It's your team. Like you cannot succeed without having a great team around you, and you want to hire the best people to learn from them. And what I've just realized is that if you want to work with great people and you want to work with people that are older than you, that are more experienced than you need to show that you have one, a very strong vision for what you're going to achieve that's not wavering, and two, you want to learn from them. That's the main thing. If you're not constantly learning from them and improving every day, you lose the trust of your own team, your investors and stuff very quickly. And as a young person, you tend to be a lot less steady. Like, you move faster, you have different perspective, but you need to respect that there's a lot of people who have experience and have done this, and you need to learn from them as you go. And so, in terms of maturing, I think it was just about understanding that, hey, I don't really know a lot of stuff about a lot of things. And so, you got to just keep in the state of learning and be adaptable.
Yes. Yeah, so having a drive and learning from the people around you is a very key aspect of being an entrepreneur, and at a young age it is a very important factor. So sir, now let's move on to your non-profit work. How do you support communities here in India, and how do you provide the treatment and care for the children with disabilities, and how did so what have you done over the last from when you were 17 years old?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, the Lotus Life Foundation, our whole mission is to essentially empower children with disabilities in rural India, and to do so through medical intervention and community rehabilitation. So what's important, and I'll explain that, is medical intervention is one thing. It's you are able to identify a child that has cerebral palsy, for example, and then you actually have doctors that know how to treat that through physical therapy, through medical devices, through surgery. The second thing is about community rehabilitation. So it's not enough to just treat the child and say, great, go and live your life. The truth is that the community that surrounds this child, their parents, their siblings, the neighbors next door, the people in the village potentially where they live, they need to understand and be educated on what this disability is, and be able to not only provide help to that family, but also to be a part of empowering that child to be economically productive in that area, in that community. And so we do programs where we will actually teach those community members what this disability is. What is this person and this child now capable of now that they've received treatment, and be a part of that process. And that's how we create awareness. That's how we create education. That's where we find the next child that needs to be treated. Because in truth, it's not, you don't just open a hospital and suddenly people start coming. You actually have to go and search for these children, search and educate and that sort of thing. And so that's basically the things that we do. And we've run several programs now over the years, treated hundreds of children for these diseases, done like basically different medical interventions, built facilities to treat them in those areas. And I'm actually excited. We're starting a new project recently that we're really excited about, which is focused on childhood blindness. So there's a very big problem in India on blindness. They say that something like 9.3 million people as of 2022 in India are visually impaired, and that includes 270,000 children who are blind. Now, think about the economic impact of this. They say that every year India loses $118 billion in gross national income due to childhood blindness. If you take the economic productivity that a child who's blind could have over a 40-year period, that is the value, $118 billion. That's a lot. And what I see is there's this specific condition called ROP, retinopathy upon prematurity. And what this is essentially a baby that's just born that's premature, meaning that they maybe have a lower weight or something like that, they're born early, there's a chance that they have this disease called ROP. And what this is it's essentially these abnormal blood vessels that appear in their eyes. And it's usually due to malnutrition. There's a spike in COVID 19. There's just not enough screening. And basically, like, you have a lot of these children in these rural areas who we don't even know how many there are that have this, but we know that even just like the last time this report was done, 50,000 kids in a year went blind because of ROP. And all is needed is that we screen this child within like a few weeks of them being born, so like within, call it a month. And then we perform a very simple and cheap treatment to be able to prevent that blindness for the rest of their lives. It only costs $120 to cure that child of blindness. $120. And so we've started a project where we're building screening camps, screening facilities throughout India, and essentially screening thousands of babies and being able to treat them, find the ones that have ROP, treat them before it develops, and effectively cure their blindness and make them economically like viable participants in the community and give them a life, essentially. And so that's the ROP project, and that's what we're launching and focusing on right now.
This is very interesting, and the fact that you kept at it with the other projects that you do, it is very good to see that you are doing this and very inspiring. In addition to the works you have done in the entrepreneurial and the philanthropic field, you have also been a motivational speaker. So, what advice do you have for young children that are struggling to find their passion and the problems that they want to solve? And some people obviously don't want to solve problems, they want to find a career. For the broad children, what is your advice for those to find their passion and their dreams?
I would say that, and this is kind of funny advice, but passion and what you do for work don't have to be the same thing. You know, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on people to say, look, you need to make money doing work, but you should also find what you're passionate about. But the truth is, like, for example, I was a very, very avid photographer growing up, and I did consider actually doing photography as my career. But my mom told me, as soon as you make it your career and you need it for money, you're going to lose your interest, you're going to lose your passion of it. And to be honest, I think she was completely right, you know? And so I look at this and say, even the work that I do today, I do a lot of like businesses and that sort of thing, but I'm excited about solving those problems. I'm not sure I'm necessarily passionate about it. I am passionate about the nonprofit work that I do, but what I realize is that if I am able to make myself financially secure, if I'm able to make a lot of money, you know, and be able to grow my own wealth, then I can make a triple impact in the nonprofit work that I do. And that's what really drives my passion. And so work is aside, I'm excited about the work that I do here, but I'm really passionate about sort of the nonprofit work that I do, and I focus on how do I maximize my impact there.
Yes, I think this is really true. I also do this as a secondary hobby and passion, interviewing people and learning from them. So I think just working towards your dream and also doing and continuing your passions, I think that is the ideal life for many people. Yes. So as a guest on Aditya Talks, a question about you: what do you hope to accomplish and achieve in the future, and what message do you want to share with the audience of young people we have here?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think there's a couple of things that I'm excited and passionate about, and then there's also the thing that kind of keeps me going every day. I think the thing that keeps me going every day is really learning about kind of new stuff. And the funny thing is, I realize that I learn about new things through doing them. And business doesn't necessarily need to be the place to do that. But if I want to learn about manufacturing one day, real estate another day, e-commerce a different day, there's no better way to do that than being able to do that in practice. And so I'm excited to just look at a lot more opportunities into the future and be able to continue expanding my knowledge. Aside from that, I think there's two things. Like, one is essentially creating kind of stability for my family and the new families to come within kind of the next generations. I think that's important to a lot of people and sort of why they do what they do. And then second, I think is making as big of an impact as I can in the nonprofit sector. I had a funny thing. I had a friend tell me when I was debating being a doctor versus dropping out of school and kind of doing my own thing. And he said, Param, why do you think polio is eradicated in Africa or in Pakistan or somewhere? Right? I said, I don't know, doctors. He's like, yeah, certainly doctors. But to be honest, it's Bill Gates. Bill Gates was able to create the foundation, which brought the resources, which brought the funding, which brought the strategy to be able to affect change at that level of scale. And doctors were absolutely the people on the ground that executed it. But if you want that maximal impact, go a different way and build sort of something of that scale. And so that's where I've been focusing my attention to the future.
Yes. So at different levels, everybody is solving a problem. Bill Gates is also solving a problem. A hospital worker in Africa or in India is also solving problems. So it's just a perspective, but the range depends on where you're working. Sir, you have stressed a lot upon the importance of mentors and guidance that you get from experienced people when you're starting at a young age. So some people that you learned from, and I think who helped you to achieve what you did up until now, and obviously in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. Funnily enough, I don't really believe in role models. I think people are very complex, and maybe people look up to Elon Musk or they look up to like some other sort of big entrepreneur. And you got to realize that you can take learnings from these people, like what they do in certain aspects of their lives and that sort of thing. But role models were never really a thing for me. I think the only person that I really looked up to in that way is my dad, and my dad is not perfect, but he made vast sacrifices for his family, for me to be able to kind of live the life and do what I want to do. And so I do look up to him for that. Aside from that, like that, absolutely mentors. I think from different people that you'll interact with, you'll be able to take very specific portions of their life, of their career, and that sort of stuff, and use it as a model to understand and learn what you need to learn about sort of what you're passionate about. And so, for example, I have a mentor, Larry Tenenbaum, who's a big entrepreneur in the United States, and he's had a very long career where he's built a massive business up over 40 years of his life. Now, me and you are younger, but essentially our generations believe that you need to come into money fast. You need to build a business quickly and like get a lot of money and build something incredible and that sort of stuff, regardless of what stability is. And what Larry has taught me is that you can actually build incredible wealth as well as like essentially, what do you call it? As well as stability, as well as status, and that just by working very hard at something for a very long time, and that's okay. And so that's been a big influence on my life to not only create for my own wealth, but also create stability.
So, as a person and as an entrepreneur and as a philanthropist, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, both personally and professionally? How do you want to be remembered by the people close to you and people that you have interacted with over the course of your life until now, at least?
Yeah, I think it's a simple answer. I think when I'm dead and gone, I want people to talk about me and just remember the impact of good that I did. Like I don't really care about like whether I was a good business person or whether I made an impact or became a billionaire or something like that. But if people talk about me, I want them to talk about the good that I did in the world, and like whether that's how many children like our initiatives were able to treat, whether that's just a good thing I did for somebody. But I think that's ultimately what I care about in terms of legacy. Because at the end of the day, I think when I have children and they remember me, I feel like that's the thing they should actually care about doing themselves, as opposed to like doing any business venture or doing something like that.
Yes. So that's really great. And some books that you would like to share with our viewers, some books that they should read as a young person.
Yeah, I have one that I'll suggest because to be honest, I read a lot of fiction. I'm a big like fiction, historical fiction type of person. I don't read a lot of business
Sapiens?
books and that sort of stuff. No, I don't read *Sapiens*. That's not the one I would suggest. It's a book called *Infinite Vision*. Not a lot of people know this, but
By
basically,
Infinite
it's
Vision by?
yeah. One second. It is here. I'll put the link in the chat just real quick. So Infinite Vision is about, it's by, forget who the author is, Pavitra Mehta and Sujit Dushanoi. It's about the Arvind Eye Clinic, which is probably one of the greatest business cases. Like there was a Harvard business study about them, but it's a nonprofit organization in India that provides basically affordable or free eye care to people throughout India. And it is one of the largest eye care systems and one of the most efficient dollar for dollar eye care systems or health systems in the world. And it was built out of one person, like one basically like lifelong bachelor's desire to find meaning in his life, to treat this problem that was blindness in India. And he started out of literally his house with 4 tables. And as a surgeon, basically, he had arthritis as a surgeon and was went from treating women and like maternal care to doing surgeries on eyes instead. And he realized that he could make a massive impact in the country by creating a system that's able to do it. It's an incredible business case study, as well as just an impossible story on how somebody made a huge impact. And so I highly recommend that to anybody that I speak to.
I'll definitely link it in the chat. Check it out, my viewers, and obviously I'll also buy it because this is the first time I heard about that book, and I love to read books, so it's very rare. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, not enough people know this book, and so I always tell people you have to read it. Yeah.
Okay. So second last question. 2-3 people that you would like to recommend to come on the show within your circle and share experiences, their experiences with our viewers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, man, there's any number of people. I think have a couple of mentors and friends. I think Larry is a great person. I think another person is one of my mentors and friends, Peter Raymond. He's been an entrepreneur and a technologist based in New York for a long time. And he had a similar path than me. He dropped out of high school because school really just wasn't for him. But he had a brilliant mind for technology, for building things, and has made a huge impact in the world on just various different meaningful things like safety, like construction safety. Most recently, he's working on climate and being able to figure out how we reverse the impact of climate destruction on our economy. And so, I would recommend him as well. Yeah.
Seems interesting. It would be great if you could share their numbers after the interview, of course.
Yeah.
But lastly, it was great to talk to you, and I hope my viewers, you also learned a lot. What is your advice for me and Aditya Talks, so that our viewers, how can we improve this channel, and what did you like about our show?
First of all, I think you're an incredible interviewer. It's just at a young age you're doing this, and you already have the eloquence, and I think that's super important. It's going to take you very far. And so, in terms of the preparation, in terms of how you're doing it, I really have no suggestions. I think you're doing it as well as I could have done it as well. I definitely think just bringing this talk to where the people are, like with your generation. Obviously India's different, but kids should see this on social media. They should see this on Instagram, on these various different channels where they're able to consume this. And yeah, if anything, I would just suggest distribution on various channels. Yeah.
Yes, I also try to. I'm trying to shift it onto many other platforms as well. But during education is a very important factor of daily childhood of children here in India. So I had my 10th boards. There's a board system over here. So I'm preoccupied with education as well, and I'm trying to crack the hardest exam in India, IIT JEE Advanced. So it is a very rough journey, but I try to enjoy it because it's a challenge. I want to solve it and just crack it.
I'm sure you'll do. I'm sure you'll do just fine. But yes, focus on that. You can do this later.
Yes, but I will keep it. I will be consistent.
For sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and experiences. I learned a lot, and your case is really interesting and inspiring because I also want to become like you. And you are my mentor from now on. I will, if I have anything, I will ask from you only. Thank you.
100%. Well, Adhitya, thanks so much for the time. All right. Goodbye.